Hello and g'day! In today's video, I'm going to show you how to recycle a book cover for a junk journal. This is part 2 of my Edith Holden cut-up series. We're going to make a junk journal using the cover that was left over after I took these pages out. Now, because this book is such an awkward size, if I was to use a piece of A4 paper and cut it in half, it's not going to fit. It's going to be too small to use for this particular book cover. So what I'm going to do instead is I've prepared this book and I'm going to use this one. So I've taken the text block out exactly the same way as I showed you how to do the Edith Holden copy, but you can see how much smaller it is. So when I fold my papers in half, I know they're going to fit inside this cover. Leave a comment below and let me know if you're going to make this one or this one. Now, before we get started, do you want to have a look at what's in here? I thought so. I know I do. I haven't even seen what's in here yet, but I know where it's from. I've been talking with Esther from Anderson's Bookbindery. Anderson's Bookbindery is an Australian bookbinding, supplies and a book restoration business. Now, I bought my sewing needles from them, my bookbinder's needles, and you've seen me use them in previous videos. Now, I absolutely love these needles. So what Esther and I have been talking about is giving some away. We have 6 packs of 2 bookbinding needles to give away to 6 lucky viewers this week. So let's open up the package first. There's actually 2 giveaways in this pack. We're going to do one giveaway this week, and then the next giveaway will start in the next video. So I know the needles are in here, but look at what else is in here. So there's our needles. 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And they're strong, they're awesome. You are really gonna love these needles. For this giveaway, you need to do a little bit of homework. All you must do to enter is 1, be a public subby. 2, like the video. 3, comment. You need to do some homework for the comment to be correct. The question I want you to answer and put your answer in the comments is, what's your favourite paper listed on the Bookbinding Australia website? I'll put the link in the description box, so all you have to do is click on it, have a look at the beautiful papers, and then just get back to me here and tell me in a comment which paper you liked. The giveaway will go for 1 week. It'll start today and it'll go through to next Saturday, the 25th, 8 p.m. Sydney time, Australia. So good luck to 6 lucky people. As soon as the competition's over on Saturday night, 6 people will be drawn, and on Monday I'll send you out your pack of 2 needles. That's the first giveaway. Alrighty, we'll talk some more about, and I'll show you more about this one in the next video. So let me show you how to make a junk journal using this ready-made book cover. This book here was bright green when I first pulled it apart, and I painted the whole cover. I wouldn't recommend using a bright green for a base and then painting it. If you're going to paint a cover this colour, use a black cover, not a bright green, because when the paint started to crack, which it did here, the bright green started to show through. So bear in mind, when you're going to recycle a book, make sure that it's already similar to the colour that you want to end up with. The first step to starting our cover. Know your books, the front, the spine, the back. Right, we know that's obvious. The inside of your cover, the back, the inside spine and the front. This particular spine has a little curve in it. You can just see a tiny curve there. It's got a little piece of stiffener there and it's a paper stiffener. This part is cloth. The front and the back cover is bookboard and it's been covered in a book cloth. This part here is very thin. There is no book board in here. So we need to strengthen that so that when you sew the signatures in, which are all your pages, that needs to be nice and strong. So that's what we're going to get strengthened now before we make the inside of this cover look pretty for junk journaling. In Australia, at Bunnings, we're able to get a cloth tape. You could put that down there. I'm not going to use this today. What I am going to use is this plasterer's tape. It's a little bit sticky, so when you pull it out, it's really flexible and easy to work with. So I'm just going to measure how much I need. I don't need quite the full length because I don't want it to come over. The reason I'm using this is because it's going to be easier for me to put down into the curve. You can also use a mull, which is from the Bookbinder Supply, and this mull here is in the beginner's bookbinding kit that we'll be giving away in the next video. Or you can use a cloth tape, which I showed you before. You can also use Tyvek, which is used for shipping envelopes and packaging. It's just a tough, unterrible paper. Or you can use a piece of cotton fabric like calico or a muslin. But that is what you would use to reinforce your spine here. I'm just going to put it in there and I'm going to push it down. It's sort of grabbing itself, but it's not enough to stay there. I do need to glue this in. And I'm going to use the Helmer fabric glue. The equivalent elsewhere is your Fabri-Tac. It's going to dry clear. Now I'm going to use my silicone bone folder rather than my fingers here. I'm going to push the glue down into the mesh and smooth it over all the way down. Then I'll add a bit more glue at the bottom here and smooth this bit down as well. Do the same on the left side. Add the glue all the way down and smooth it over with the bone folder. Repeat on the right side so it's all secured and laying flat. Now we're going to cover this up so it's not going to be seen anyway. Now that works well. Now we'll let that dry completely. So I'll be back when that dries. Rightio, now we're ready to put some fabric on the inside of this spine. That will be this bit here. So that when you open your book, it's going to look pretty there. What you can do here is have a print, a plain, a very plain and tea-dyed, or another print. This is a canvasy sort of material. This is a hanky. This is just a cotton cloth from Spotlight. This is also 100% cotton from Spotlight, and they're called rolled fat flats. What I want to do on this one is put my paper down first and put the fabric over the top. And I'm going to have the edges a bit frayed. You can do it either way. It doesn't have to be finished like this. Because I've done so many like this, I'm going to do it the other way around. Now the other thing that I'm going to do is, the way I'm preparing this cover is we're going to see the stitches through the outside. This is going to be an easy method for you to do as a beginner, if you are a beginner. So we're going to sew the signatures in straight through this cover, and you will see them on this outside. This book here, I've sewn them in from the inside of the signature here, and you can't see them on the outside. All right, this one here, I've sewn them in from the inside of the signature, and you can see it on the outside. So this is the method that I'm going to show you today. You need to select your paper first and then glue the paper down on the front cover and the back cover, and then we're going to glue the fabric trim over the top, and then we're ready to move on to the signatures. So let's get our paper first. I'll get that and we'll get started. I've picked my paper. I'm going to keep it plain because it's just an easier path for me to take. If I was going to use this fabric down the spine, I could have gone and used a very pretty pattern paper because it pretty much goes with anything. Keep that in mind when you choose whatever fabric you want to use down the center, that you need to have matching paper to go over here and here. It needs to look good. I've got a piece here that's already been started to be cut, so let's use it. So I'm going to get my square ruler and I'm going to measure, and I'm going to cut a piece that fits just inside here. Here's a little tip for you. You can see a little bit of oil, just natural oil on my skin where I've handled this paper. I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of talcum powder on my hands. This is an old jewelry tip from jewelry making. And I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of talcum powder, not enough to change the color of anything, and it just takes the oil off my fingers. I'm just cutting off any of the edges that aren't tidy. Now I'm going to do the back first. That way, if you make a little error on the back, it's not going to be as noticeable. You practice on the back and then we go to the front. And I'm going to work out how much paper I need. So I'm just going to mark that there and mark that there. So that's the width of my back. So I've lined it up with the old cover, the grey bit, and maybe just push it ever so slightly further over it. Then I'm going to find where it ends here, so when I cut it out, that it actually is covered. And then I'm going to cut it. Check everything before you cut. You'll be glad that you did. And that's ready to glue down. Have you noticed that it's white here? I'm going to get my distress ink and I'm going to colour that white. So I'm just going to get the colour espresso. You don't need much. See now that white bit's gone? Now I'm not happy with the way my oily fingers are still leaving marks on my paper. So I'm going to use the Scrap Perfect. So that's all it is, the little pouch. It's for embossing powder or if you're inking. Right, now I'm going to just glue that down. All right, now I'm using Barely Art Precision Glue. I've just changed over from the Art Glitter Glue. I'm finding this excellent. I do recommend that you try it. Once you try it, you will keep it. I found out in a minute how good it was. It's not a problem to get it at any time of the year. It doesn't freeze over, so you don't have any problems when you order it. It's not going to be, stopped from being shipped because of freezing weather. So you can get it any time of year. And a bonus. See these little tips? The very fine tip? They come with it. You don't have to buy them separate. Put a little bit more glue just to get those corners down. I just want to make sure those corners don't lift up. Okay. Starting from the outside, put it down, making sure you're covering over the old piece and put it down. So when we do our front piece, we're going to make sure that it's parallel with this back piece. See, I can flatten that down now and no glue is going to come out. I haven't gone over that line there. Don't go over that line. You don't want this paper to come down into the spine. It's just on the edge. If you're a little bit worried, come back a little bit. It's going to be covered with the fabric anyway. Roll that flat. You can use your bone folder, your hand, or whatever you've got to level that down. Now I'm going to make sure that the front piece matches the back piece that way. I'm going to make sure the front is the same height as the back. So I'm going to measure my back and cut my first piece exactly the same height. Then I'm going to just come back in that little bit again. And I only need to bring it to there. Now I know that will match. There we go. Right, that's our front and back covers covered, the insides. Now we'll get our fabric ready. So we've just got to work out how much of it that I want to see. So if I make it around about there, I think that'll be good. So I might like to see a little bit of that there. I'll just cut that there and give it a rip. I want it to be quite messy. The height of it is perfect. I don't even have to touch that. So I've just done a little snip here and just pull it just to get that nice and messy. Right, now the top and the bottom will fray itself with use. Okay, so there's the centerpiece ready to glue in. And I think that's going to look pretty nice, being a bit messy and over the top. And then once the pages are stitched in, you know, you're just going to see that nice bit of trim there. Rather than cover it up, I'm going to use it as a feature. All right, now we're ready to glue this down. Now your glue will come through this fabric. If you put too much glue on and then push it straight down, your glue will come through. You can back this fabric with this bondit, or you can just be careful with how you put it on here. But this fabric is fairly hefty, so I'm not going to worry about backing it because I don't need it any heavier. You can do either. You can put it directly onto your book cover, which I think we'll do so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to work out about where the glue needs to go. So it needs to go from about there to about there. Now I'm going to put the glue into the spine first, right? The spine area first. Now I know that my fabric is going to come out over here, but I'm not going to put my glue right to the edge because I don't want it to come out and stick to the end of my cover. I don't want to make a mess with the glue. I'm just coming right up to the edge here. I'm putting glue all over. I'm really getting the glue into that netting. Here goes. That's my top. I'm double checking. That's the top of my patterned material. I'm going to work out approximately the center, and I'm just going to tap it in. I'm not going to go overly silly just yet. The bottom is sitting pretty even, and I'm okay with that because the bottom of your book, if you put it on a bookshelf, you don't really need a real lot hanging out the bottom anyway. I'm just pushing it in using my thumb. You can use a bone folder. I can feel that I've still got my curve there. It's sitting beautifully. I don't even need to wait for that to dry, and I can continue and put some more glue. I'm going to do the back first. Always work on the back first if you haven't done anything before. Work on the back first so that you know that you're going to have a little bit of practice before you move to the front, which is the focal part of your journal. I'm going to use my eye to make an invisible line. I'm bringing more glue right into the edge here. I want to make sure it's nicely glued. I'm going to start on this center part here, and I'm just gently going to use my fingers and work my way out. That frayed part can stay free. I'm going to turn it around so it's just easier for me to work because I'm right-handed. Same again, start pushing from the inside of the spine and work your way out. So none of the glue is coming through this fabric. And this fabric, did I tell you I got it from Spotlight in Australia? So go to the upholstery section, not the fashion section. Alrighty, so I'm just going to let that dry before I start closing it up. I'm going to leave it sit for a while, and that's the inside of our cover done. And all that's left to do once we sew the signatures in is we can put pockets or decorate, put a book plate or whatever in there. But once the pages are sitting here, it's going to have something nice to look at there. So I'll just let that dry and I'll be back in a minute. And that's all good to go. So we're ready to go on to our next step, which is making up the signatures. I have another video on explaining these signatures. Go and have a look at those before we start getting the signatures ready so you understand what a signature is. Now move on to part 3, where I show you how I pick my papers to make the pages, and I'll be making them into 3 signatures. I'm Donna, good luck in the giveaway, and bye for now.